A Rosemont native receives his second grant from a local group organized to honor those who have served in combat zones.
Sergeant Christopher Holbrook is a double recipient of the Purple Heart. In 2003, he was injured in Iraq and in Afghanistan in 2005.
We were actually ambushed and we came very close to death. 7 out of the 10 of us got injured. And luckily we made it through. They were very intent on not letting us go, but we made it through alive. And
he was re-injured again.
The Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund has raised $4.5 million to date. Holbrook now attends the University of Minnesota, majoring in broadcast journalism, and he's eligible for more grants, but he's declining them, saying others needed a lot more.
One of Minnesota's newest veterans gets quite the special treatment. Lance Corporal Adam Anderson of Carlstadt accepted an autographed basketball at the Timberwolves game last night, but that wasn't all. Members of the Minnesota's Military Appreciation Fund surprised him with a $2,000 check.
I got a greeting like that. I never got a greeting like that when I came back from Iraq. So this is a treat. Me the first time.
Pretty nice. Anderson was serving in Fallujah last year when a sniper shot him in the hand. He has since received a Purple Heart.
Good for him.
Standing ovation there. A lot of people at that game for him last night.
It's Wednesday, November 22nd.
Hey, girls.
One big birthday, 2 separate babies.
Kiss the bear.
A play date with the Carlson twins 1 year after their story began. Plus, how did Thanksgiving start?
Something with the Pilgrims and the Indians.
Good question, but first.
It's a special Thanksgiving thank you from the Minnesota Timberwolves to 2 men who have earned the Purple Heart for fighting for our country.
On WCCO 4 News at 10.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. I'm Don Shelby.
And I'm Amelia Santinella. We hope your families made it to their destination this holiday weekend. This season, we can all be thankful for the men and women serving our country overseas.
Tonight, 2 soldiers who gave so much for America got a little something back. As Esme Murphy shares with us, thousands of fans and one-of-a-kind Minnesota group showed their appreciation for the soldiers who earned the Purple Hearts.
The battle Sergeant Mark Keyes enjoys tonight is just a game. Sergeant Keyes left the battle in Iraq more than a year ago. It still haunts him.
I think of Iraq every day.
Tonight, he and Sergeant Adam Sands were honored by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Sergeant Keyes was shot in the leg in Iraq. Sergeant Sands was hit in the head during an Afghan riot in 2004. Tonight, both were presented with grants of $2,000 from the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund. The fund is the only one of its kind in the entire country where ordinary citizens have raised money that so far has gone to more than 3,000 Minnesota soldiers. The fund will give a cash grant to every Minnesota soldier that serves until the conflict is over.
Our grant is not going to give them back that time with their family or compensate them, but it certainly lets them know that Minnesota loves and respects their military personnel.
It's a thank you that came as a surprise to Sergeant Sands.
I think it's awesome.
And in an increasingly controversial war, knowing a thank you is waiting is something all Minnesota troops and their families can be thankful for.
It's just nice to know that there are people who are so supportive.
They're there for the troops, and that's it, out of the goodness of their hearts.
And those grants range from $200 to $5,000. Those that are wounded receive $2,000, and families of those that are killed receive $5,000. And Don, this is only being done in Minnesota, the only fund like it in the entire country.
That seems good and bad at the same time.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Where does the group get most of its support?
Well, it's getting much of its support from individuals and also corporations. The T-Wolves will be giving $10,000. Wow. Incredible. And the T-Wolves are also helping out in a big way. They've actually given 4,500 tickets to troops and their families this season.
That's great. Means a lot. Thank you very much, Esme. Now, if you'd like to help Minnesota's military families, you can donate to that fund or simply post a message to the troops online. All you have to do is visit links and numbers on WCCO.com.
Back home, a soldier comes home from the war without his legs, but with his spirit still very much intact.
And tonight he got a big surprise from his brothers in arms. Fox 9's Tim Blotz was there for the award.
I tell you what, Robin, this is the kind of man, the kind of soldier that recruitment posters are made of. He may have a broken body, but not a broken spirit.
In my sense, in my mind, I'll always be a soldier.
Sergeant Brian Sarastow is a soldier with a story.
Hands a little bit sweaty.
A story that ends at the top of his uniform, but begins at the bottom.
I was in the back of a Humvee.
While driving through Kirkuk in Iraq last July, a bomb ripped the entire side off Sergeant Sarastow's vehicle.
The driver losing a right leg up above his knee and then taking the floor out where I was at, where I had lost both of my legs below the knee.
He now walks with prosthetic legs, but there's nothing about this man that's artificial.
Oh, he's an awesome soldier.
If there's a surprise in this story, it's in the two men Sergeant Sarastow has barely seen since they delivered him to a helicopter. They've now returned to deliver something else.
The Bronze Star is for leaders.
At a fundraiser for the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund, the only one left in the dark about the presence of his battlefield commanders was Sergeant Sarastow himself.
Open mouth, big eyes. Just, oh, hey guys. It's just excitement. I'm pretty sure he'll be excited.
It's said that Bronze Stars are awarded to heroes. And if that's true, Sergeant Sarastow says he's just one in a couple 100,000.
Every one of them's a hero. You don't have to be wounded to be a hero. I mean, when they come off that plane coming back, hurt or unhurt, they're all heroes.
And the Bronze Star winning sergeant has a message for all of Minnesota tonight. He says, let the soldiers and their families know that you care. He says they need that more than anything else right now. In downtown Minneapolis, Tim Blotz, Fox 9 News.
We do care, Tim. Congratulations, Sergeant.
A Minnesota soldier wounded in Iraq gets quite a surprise. At a fundraiser for the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund, Sergeant Brian Sarastow was awarded the Bronze Star by his commander and fellow first sergeant from Iraq. The pair flew to Minnesota to surprise Sergeant Sarastow. Sarastow lost both legs to a bomb explosion in Iraq last July. Despite getting the Bronze Star, he doesn't consider himself a hero.
Every one of them's a hero. You don't have to be wounded to be a hero. I mean, when they come off that plane coming back, hurt or unhurt, they're all heroes.
Sarastow was awarded a $10,000 grant by the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund to help him and his family pay for expenses.
Minnesota's military families will get double the gift from people who simply want to say thank you. The Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund planned to give $250 to each family in the state who had someone serve in combat since 2001. Thanks to a big fundraiser, that amount will be doubled. Grants will go out in the mail at the end of May.
It's a military honor dating back to 1932, the Purple Heart, given to soldiers hurt or killed while serving their country.
And tonight at the Minnesota Lynx game, 4 men who received the medal are honored for all of their efforts. Fox 9's Bill Keller is back from the ceremony with more on them.
Well, it was a patriotic night at the Target Center with the crowd giving those war heroes a standing ovation while others gave them a cash grant for their sacrifice. Since returning home from active duty, Specialist David Jensen has been working to adjust to life outside the combat zone.
It just takes time to relax and get back into the swing of things, and that's probably what's been the biggest adjustment to me, is just getting used to my daily life.
But today was anything but normal for Jensen, one of 4 soldiers honored at the Minnesota Lynx game.
The Minnesota Lynx are proud to recognize our heroes in the making.
Each were given an autographed ball and presented with a check for $2,000 from Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund.
These folks are selfless. They're not asking for any of this. But what they appreciate is that people are thinking about them.
Since August of 2005, the group has raised over $6 million and given away more than 4,000 grants to Minnesota military personnel and their families.
It's a way to show something tangible, that we really do care about the sacrifice they've made for us, and that we're deeply appreciative of all the work they're doing on our behalf.
I was hit by a roadside bomb. It went off, and I was a gunner in our Humvee, and I took shrapnel on my right knee.
Jensen proudly displays his Purple Heart, awarded for being wounded during missions in both Iraq and Afghanistan. And he says he carries it with him every day.
You know, however small and little this little piece of ribbon and metal is, it means a lot to me, and it definitely means a lot to my family, showing that I've come home safely.
And if you would like to make a donation to Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund, we have set up a link on our website. Just log on to myfox9.com. From there, click on As Seen on TV. Live in the newsroom, Bill Keller, Fox 9 News.
On this September 11th anniversary, there will be a special thank you to Minnesota soldiers wounded in combat. Organizers of Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund will give 7 Purple Heart recipients grants. Susanna Song is in the newsroom with one of the honorees. Susanna?
Vanita, the group Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund has awarded grants to Minnesota veterans who have served in combat since September 2001. To date, more than 4,600 soldiers have received the grants, and families of fallen soldiers receive a $5,000 cash grant. Wounded soldiers can get $2,000 to $10,000 depending on the severity of their injuries, and those who serve honorably in a combat zone are eligible for $500. Now, this morning, the nonprofit group is granting Staff Sergeant Timothy Nelson with an award at the Capitol this morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad to have you. What are your injuries, and tell us about how you got hurt in Iraq?
I was on a patrol just south of Fallujah. We were in a Humvee. There was 5 of us in the vehicle. We encountered an IED which blew up under our vehicle, did catastrophic damage. I lost two of my good friends, good soldiers, were killed. Brian McDonough and Corey Risted. Sergeant John Creasel was in the seat in front of me. Ended up losing both his legs. I suffered shrapnel to my face, to my foot, and I had a concussion. I have no memory for 48 hours. That's what I suffered. I was very lucky that day to come out of that the way I did with the blast.
How do you feel that you are getting an award on September 11th?
It's definitely a historic day for our country. I know the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund. It's great what those guys do. I know they picked this day. It's a day for honoring, for remembering, and I think it's great all the work that those guys have done helping us as we've come back and other soldiers.
And really quickly, do you feel troops are getting adequate support?
I do. I know personally, everyone you talk to around here has been great. They're always smiling, thanking you for your service, and willing to help you out in any way they can.
Thank you so much. If you'd like to make a contribution to these brave soldiers and you like to exercise, well, there's a special walk run on September 22nd. If you'd like more information about it, go ahead and log on to our website at kstp.com. Back to you, Vanita and Tom.
Okay, thanks a lot, Susanna. Talk about well-deserved grants and awards.
And such a humble guy, too. He talked about that explosive. John Creasel had major injuries from that, but we really honor all the men and women over there.
Yeah, all right. It was a very soft-spoken gentleman.
Yes.
Who's been through a rough time.
You could say Minnesota has a big heart when it comes to Purple Hearts, and it's all because of a grassroots effort to honor our recipients in a way nobody else in the nation does. Here's Carol Evans' Joe Fryer.
For these 6 Minnesota soldiers, coming home was the greatest reward, and what's happening today is a bonus.
It's a good way to show the appreciation for the troops.
Sergeant Robert Bleninger was injured by a roadside bomb while patrolling Iraq last year.
Everybody was pretty much okay, a few bumps, bruises, nothing minor stitches wouldn't take care of.
Sergeant Robert Bleninger of Browerville.
It was enough to receive the Purple Heart then and a $2,000 grant now. The money comes from the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund, a nonprofit that gives $500 to every Minnesota military member serving in a combat zone since 9/11.
I just made a move, so this will definitely help out in my transition. Thank you.
The soldiers honored today are getting more money because they received Purple Hearts.
It's nothing that we went out and actually went to earn. It's just something that happened to us.
One of the grants goes to Staff Sergeant Tim Nelson. This is him riding in a Humvee last December right before it hit a roadside bomb. The blast killed Specialist Brian McDonough and Corey Risted. Another soldier, Sergeant John Creasel, lost both legs.
Good to see you, dude. Good to see you too, man.
They reunited when Nelson returned from Iraq in July.
Thank you.
To Nelson, getting this award on 9/11 is extra special.
9/11 is definitely historic for our country, but it's also a good time to remember all the heroes and the guys that aren't with us.
And thank those who are.
We're just so delighted that you all came home. Thank you.
Joe Fryer, KARE 11 News.
Well, so far, the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund has distributed more than 4,600 grants, totaling more than $2.8 million. The organization will hold a walk-run a week from Saturday. And for more information, go to our websites, kare11.com, and then click on featured links.
Thousands of people are strapping on their walking and running shoes this morning to show their appreciation for Minnesota soldiers. Maya Nishikawa is in Minneapolis for the 3rd annual Military Appreciation Walk and Run. Good cause this morning. Hi, Maya.
Hi, John. And yes, they're expecting a really big turnout today, about 1,000 people to walk for the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund. And I have a guest of honor with me right now, Sergeant Brian Saristo and his family. And Sergeant, you're going to be leading the walk and run today, and you are a double amputee, and they've honored you with a grant for you and your family. Can you tell us a little bit about your war experience?
It was, I don't know. I love the military. I always will, always. If I could be back there right now, I'd be back there. I'm just here to back up all the soldiers that are going and coming back.
Now, your vehicle was hit by an IED, is that right?
Yes, it was.
How does it feel to be here and, to be so visible and show people that, life goes on?
I don't know. As long as it brings attention to the soldier, I'll go anywhere I have to go.
Now, I understand that your family received a $10,000 grant, and you have your son Brian here, and Leah is off getting her face painted. But can you tell us, Cheryl, what did that grant mean to you and your family?
Well, it really helped us out a lot. It helped us out on bills and, school clothes, things like that. We had been living in Walter Reed for quite a while, so neither one of us had been working, and it was very helpful.
What does it mean to have this kind of support, not just for you, but for the rest of the military men and women and their families, to have this ongoing support? This is a very unique organization. I understand it's the only one in the country that's citizen-driven.
I think that maybe this will catch on for the following states. I think Minnesota right now is the kickoff of this, so hopefully this continues to chain reaction.
Well, good luck to you and your family, and it's quite an honor for you to be leading the walk and run today. And you can come out and meet Sergeant Saristo and the rest of the folks here. You still have time to register. It goes till 9 o'clock this morning. We're at Washington and Park Avenues, just in front of the Mill City Museum. It all starts at about 9:15, and if you come out here and register and be part of the walk, you'll also get a ticket to today's Twins game, where they'll be having another celebration.
All right, yeah, the last couple of games left, so that'd be fun. All right, thank you, Maya.
Here's what's making news on this Saturday morning.
One of the nation's highest military honors will be awarded to a Minnesota soldier later this morning.
Yeah, the soldier will become the first Minnesota National Guard member to receive the Silver Star since World War II. We'll meet that soldier coming up in our 8 o'clock hour. Right now, though, I want to tell you how you can get involved in an event to honor all Minnesota troops. And our Jody Ambrose joins us live from the River Center in St. Paul with more on that. Good morning, Jody.
Good morning. Well, a special ceremony is taking place later this morning here at the River Center for military troops and their families. And a walk is also taking place in Minneapolis today to help support the troops and their families as well. And joining me now, one of the walk organizers, Skip Krozek. And you're with the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund and also one of the fund recipients, Joshua Revak. First of all, we want to start with Skip. And Skip, just tell us a little bit about how this walk helps support the fund and these families.
What we do is we have 3,000 twin tickets that the Twins have so been kind to give us. And the first, all the military and their families can come out and get free tickets to the game, bring their family, friends, all the supporters in Minnesota, and say a big round of thanks to our troops.
All right, and the money raised will go directly to these troops, correct?
All the money raised goes directly to the troops. We've raised over $6 million so far and given out $3 million in grants to over 5,000 troops.
And how can the average person get involved in the walks? Is there still time this morning?
You bet. 8 o'clock registration right up till 9 o'clock down at the Mill City Museum on 2nd Street in Minneapolis, just a couple blocks from the Dome. Come on down. If you can't make that, it's www.thankmntroops.org, and you can give through there.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And we also want to talk to you, Joshua, about your experiences with the fund. How is the fund going to be helping you here shortly?
Well, last night my wife and I were we're just bewildered. I was wondering kind of how I was going to make my house payment, and coming from active duty overseas military, it's been a real tough transition to come back to the States here, and the VA tends to take quite a long time to get everything straight, and with my disabilities that limit my mobility, it's been really tough to get back into the swing of things. So this is just a huge weight off my shoulders, and I really appreciate what these guys are doing. It's just amazing.
What exactly does it mean to you to have all these people getting together for the walk? People that you don't even know.
Just to see the support for the soldiers, it just, you know, you can't even explain how that feels. It's good to have support, you know. It's just, yeah, you can't even explain the feeling.
Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. And Joshua's going to be helping to lead the walk down in front of the Mill City Museum later this morning. And coming up in our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to another soldier receiving the Silver Star, one of the military's highest honors. Tom and Karen.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jody. Can't wait for that coming up. As Jody mentioned, around 8 o'clock, well, the Military Appreciation Walk begins and ends at the Mill City Museum parking lot on South 2nd Street in Minneapolis, right by the Dome. Registration starts at 8 o'clock this morning. There'll be a ceremony honoring troops at 9. 5K begins 15 minutes later. And then at 11, our service members will present a giant flag at the Twins game during the national anthem.
A standing ovation at tonight's Timberwolves game, but this one happened in between the plays on the court. The special honor was for 2 Minnesotans who nearly gave their lives in Iraq. Kevin Kelly of Elk River and Nick West of Burnsville both received Purple Hearts for their injuries. Tonight, they each received autographed basketballs and a check for $7,500 from the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund.
It's for those guys to be honored tonight at center court, right where they belong.
Perfect for them, yes.
A Minnesota man is also trying to honor local men and women who have served this country.
Eugene Sitt is the chairman of the Minnesota's Military Appreciation Fund, and certainly our pleasure to welcome him here today. You were telling us in the commercial break that you saw 3 of our guardsmen just last night.
Yes, I was returning home from out of the country, and I was at the airport picking up our bags, and 3 soldiers in their khaki, Desert Storm khaki, and I asked them whether they were from Fort Stewart in Georgia. They said no, they're Guard members who have just returned from Iraq. It was very moving seeing these proud men and women putting their lives serving our country. One of the very few, as the Marine would say. And I told them about the citizens' effort, and their eyes lit up in terms of how wonderful it is for people back home who care.
Tell us about this Minnesota Appreciation Fund and your idea and what it does.
Well, it's very simple. It's the right thing to do. Is typical Minnesota value in terms of people realizing, people like myself and other community leaders who realize the sacrifices being made by very few people who are defending our freedom and providing the life that we have, and realizing the sacrifices that they're making. And I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we can find some ways to say thank you, we appreciate you and your families, and we want to help you. That's the whole genesis of it.
And this has helped with things like making a mortgage payment or?
Well, we've given out 5,500 grants in a little over 2 years, including 190 grants to soldiers wounded from Minnesota in combat since 9/11. 32 of the families of those soldiers killed in action, and we've got another 15 or 20 that we need to contact, and then roughly 350 of those who served. There's another 2,800 who just came home, and there are those who come home in small groups like the ones I referred to. Another 1,100 have just been deployed, and we've been advised by the Adjutant General's office another 800 will be deployed a little bit later next year. And it's really a tremendous burden by these few proud Minnesotans.
Now, I understand you created this, you took this on yourself. That's one of the reasons why you won our Love and New Care Award just this past September. But you've also, this is like a template for other states, and no other states seem to be following it.
That's true. There's no public money, no government money. This is strictly you and me. We've gotten about 1,500 grants, from $2 grants to couple $1 million, and others. It's a private sector citizen effort, and it's a wonderful template, and the governor has written to his counterpart in other states telling them about our effort and that we're here to help other states.
Well, it is a
Very exciting
remarkable
time.
effort, and it's one that all of us can join in and participate.
That's
We're going to
correct.
give some
That's
information. Mr. Eugene Sitt, great to have you here.
Thank
Always
you.
a pleasure to see
Thank you.
And we can find out more information on Minnesota's Military Appreciation Fund on our website. That's it right there on your screen. Just click on the Where We Live button. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for creating this. And
Well,
thank you for honoring our armed forces in this way.
And as you know, Mr. Sitt and his family have their hands involved in a lot of wonderful
Right.
efforts in this community. So
It was a
thank
great
you.
community.
Yeah, it
Thank
is.
you.
Well, it loves
Thank
you
you.
back, so
Right.
thank you.
A former Twin Cities firefighter is getting a special honor after serving, get this, 6 tours of duty in the Middle East. And as Carol Evans' Joe Fryer tells us tonight, the honor comes from a group that just reached a major milestone.
At the Wayzata Fire Department,
Scott was locker 7.
something is missing.
He's just gone, and he's so far away, it's difficult.
Locker number 7 belonged to Scott Adams, a volunteer firefighter
He loved to help people. That's what he was about.
who also volunteered to go to Iraq.
And he knew he could do some good over there, and that's why he volunteered to go back.
But during his 6th tour of duty overseas, his 3rd in Iraq, his Hummer hit an IED.
He actually got up, and he walked to the helicopter by himself.
Amazing considering the blast burned 47% of his body and severely damaged his back, neck, shoulders, and more.
I remember bits and pieces.
We spoke with him on the phone from Fort Sam Houston in Texas, where he's been recovering for a year now with his wife and 3 sons, but without his wife's income.
I'm passionate about this.
Enter Eugene Sitt, chairman of the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund, which just awarded its 6,000th grant to Staff Sergeant Scott Adams.
What he's given to this country is a heck of a lot more than what we're giving him. And we have what we have today because of young men and women like him.
When Adams learned he was getting a $10,000 grant, he couldn't hold back the tears.
It's truly amazing. I can't say enough to him and thank him enough. And when I get home there to Minnesota, I would just want to hug him, and I want to help participate for future soldiers.
He hopes to return to Wayzata someday.
We'd like to see Scott back.
And his friends at the fire department can't wait to fill locker number 7 again. Joe Fryer, Carol Evans News.
The Military Appreciation Fund gives $500 grants to Minnesota soldiers who serve honorably in combat zones. Larger amounts given to wounded soldiers. It's a nonprofit group and has raised more than $6 million in just 2.5 years.
Eugene Sitt, an 11 Who Care winner last year.
Yeah, wonderful effort.
This is 5 Eyewitness News at 6:30.
They put their lives in harm's way to protect our freedom.
We have this great country today because of the sacrifices of these men and women.
Now a Minnesota man offers a different kind of thank you for the troops.
As the war in Iraq continues, so does the need to support the troops when they return home.
That's where Twin Cities man comes in. He's taking it upon himself to provide some assistance through the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund. And Joe Mason talked with the group's founder and some of the people the organization is helping.
Can you say hi to Papa?
Shane and Michelle Clifton both served in the Iraq War with the Navy, which means both qualify to receive a grant from the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund.
I think it's amazing. I think it's wonderful.
It's something you can never say thank you enough.
Shane and Michelle are not alone. The fund has already awarded more than $4 million to Minnesota military members. The organization was started by a man who never served in the military. Actually, he wasn't even born in this country. Although his office is way up there on the 33rd floor of the IDS Center,
We're going back to my office?
Gene Sitt is still very down to earth. Born in China, came to America as a kid to escape communist revolution. He studied hard, worked hard, eventually began his own successful investment firm. For all this country gave to him, Sitt says he wanted to give back.
And I'm very appreciative in terms of the freedom and the opportunities that we have.
So a few years ago, Sitt started the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund. He donated more than $1 million of his own money.
We have this great country today because of the sacrifices of these men and women.
All Minnesota military personnel who serve in a combat zone can receive $500. Those wounded in combat are eligible for $2,000 to $10,000. The families of those killed in combat qualify for a $5,000 grant.
We want to help them. He's just as much a hero as the folks still over there, you know, because it's so appreciated.
Some of the money the Cliftons received is helping pay for diapers. Joe Mason, 5 Eyewitness News.
And the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund is a nonprofit organization. If you want more information about it, log on to our website, kstp.com, and click on a Scene on 5.
Next weekend, thousands of Minnesotans will gather to walk and run in honor of those who sacrificed their lives for freedom. People like Private First Class Edward Jim Hergott. He was the first Minnesotan to die during combat operations in Iraq. That was 5 years ago this July. And we are so happy to have his mom, Marcia, as our guest this morning to talk about the 4th annual Minnesota's Troop Appreciation Walk and 5K Run. Thanks so much for taking time to be with us today. What is this 5K walk and run that's happening next weekend?
It's a fundraiser for the MMAF, which is Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund. They raise money to give back to the soldiers that are over there. I'm trying to think, over in Iraq, over in Afghanistan, people that are serving us.
Right.
So they try to give a certain amount to each soldier that comes back, and that's why we're raising money, is just to say thank you to them and remembering them and helping the injured ones that come back, because they need a lot of help too.
Yeah, it's so important to show our appreciation for all that they do, whether it's spending time away from their families or the ultimate sacrifice like your son is giving their lives. What kinds of things are they trying to do? Reach out to families? And
yes, they reach out to family. 100% of their fund goes to the troops. There's no organizational funds taken away from the pledges. That's all from Eugene Sitt at Sitt Investment and Company, and he's got 3 people that work on it through his own office. So it's kind of nice. It's a, you know, 100% goes back, and it's just it's a great way to say thank you to the soldiers.
yeah.
You know.
And for you, it's been 5 years since you lost your son. How have things changed for you?
You know, it seems like yesterday.
Does it?
You know, time does not, you know,
heal.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah. You know, you remember for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, you remember the day it happened and everything else that goes on with it.
And it's probably an everyday thing where you're waking up and thinking of your son.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now the big question. You gonna run or walk?
I'm gonna walk.
And I bet you have a whole team of supporters for
I
Jim.
do. We're bringing about 31 family members along. We're going to lead the walk. All I told those family members that are coming with me is that they need to get pledges.
Yeah, and raise money.
And raise money for the troops that are coming home.
Any idea how much your family's going to raise or how much this walk will raise?
Well, right now we have in our pot over $1,100.
Wow, excellent.
So, and there's still next Wednesday that I have to go out, that I'm not working, so I'm going to be pounding the beat, asking for money.
Yeah.
You know, I go to more businesses where I leave the rest of the family to go to friends and, you know, and family members.
And you go after the big money.
I go after the big money.
But that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Marcia. And our best wishes to you. Have a wonderful walk. Hopefully the weather will hold next Sunday.
Oh, I hope so.
We'll have a little chat with Ron after this.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. And once again, here are the details of this year's Minnesota's Military Appreciation Day Run and Walk. It'll happen a week from today here in downtown Minneapolis. It will start at 4th Street and Park Avenue, and you can register online or the day of the event. For more details, just head to our website. You'll find everything you need to know at wcco.com/links. And to know more about the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund or to get involved in the walk and run, just log on wcco.com/links as well.
Now let's send it over to Di with something else that's important going on this weekend.
Thank you, Pat. Well, honoring the brave men and women who serve our country in the armed forces. On Sunday, hundreds will gather for the 4th annual Minnesotans Troop Appreciation 5K Walk and Run. And Skip Krozik from the Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund and Marcia Hergott are here to share what this event means. So let's start with Marcia. You lost your son, Private First Class Edward Jim Hergott, 5 years ago in Iraq. So what does this weekend mean for you?
It means we are thanking the soldiers that are protecting our freedom. We're going to we're going to thank Minnesota soldiers. I think we're the only ones, right?
Okay, and we have pictures that you sent us from your family, and one of the pictures is, I guess it's a group photo of you, and Jim's in the back. And was this one of the last times or last family photographs you were able to get?
Actually, Jim was digitally entered into that picture.
Okay.
Because that was our 5-year mark where we would have another one done.
Oh, okay.
So he was killed earlier that year, so in November we asked them if they could do something, and they digitally, they entered him into it.
Okay, and then the other picture that we have of him is in his service uniform.
Yes, that's the day before. They had a picnic in Germany before they left for Iraq.
Have you heard from some of the men who served with him?
Yes, I have.
Do they keep in touch with you?
Yes, by email or sending me letters.
And by the way, in case you're wondering what's going on, we actually have a storm front that's blowing through right now. That's why we put the tent up in the backyard, and our door is literally banging behind us as that's happening. And are they part of the people who are maybe even participating in this walk over in Iraq at the same time we're having this walk on Sunday?
No, they're not, because they are from California and Colorado, and they are stationed in Romney.
Okay.
So they're not stationed at Camp Liberty.
And so when people come, you want them really to remember all the men and women who are serving over there. So Skip, let's talk about that. The group that you're with, Minnesota Military Appreciation Fund, monies raised will go towards that this weekend?
Right. So far, we've raised over $7 million of funds since announcing in August of '05. Our founder, Gene Sitt, had a vision of wanting to thank all the Minnesota troops that are serving overseas. I wanted to make it a nonpartisan effort. We just wanted to say thanks to the men and women from Minnesota who wear our nation's uniform.
All right. Well, we have more information on our website about what's happening this weekend. Again, is the 4th annual Minnesotans Troop Appreciation Walk 5K Run this Sunday, starting at 11 o'clock at the Dome. Registrations can be done online for now or on site earlier that day. And we're going to have a link to this event at KARE11.com. Thank you for joining us.
Well, it is summer, and a lot of folks are probably spending the weekend in the lake or in the sun, having a little bit of fun. But many Minnesota families are thinking about something serious, the wars their loved ones are fighting.
Well, tomorrow morning they will be part of the Minnesotans Troop Appreciation Walk. It's dedicated to all the men and women serving our country right now. Our James Shugel talked with one veteran who will be there with his wife.
After 2 deployments to Iraq, Brent Straub has a multiple amounts of stories to tell about the war-torn country he so bravely fought in. But he and his wife Bethany have only one message for the people of Minnesota. Thanks. Thanks for the support then. Thanks for it now.
I think people really appreciate our sacrifice and everyone's sacrifice.
He remembers fighting on the front lines as a Marine, the attacks, going door to door looking for and finding weapons. He also remembers the attack on his own life, when a hand grenade was thrown into a courtyard that he was in.
And we were too close to it to get away from it, too far away from it to kick it back in the room. So we ended up just taking the full blast of that.
There is shrapnel throughout his body. Pain then, pride now. Back home in Minnesota, he's proud to receive the Purple Heart Award, proud to be a Marine, proud to have received unwavering support.
Brent drives along the street, you know, and we have Purple Heart license plates, and he gets saluted all the time.
He and his wife Bethany will be walking in this weekend's Minnesotans Troop Appreciation Walk. Brent's not looking for a pat on his own back. He wants to show support for the men and women still fighting for America around the world.
It's just amazing to get out there and see how many people actually just come out and, say thanks.
This will be the 4th year for the walk.
And I know how great it feels for me to see other people showing support.
911 pushed Brent to join the Marines. Still to this day, he has no regrets that he did.
James says Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund is sponsoring the walk Sunday morning, and you can find out much more about it at WCCO.com under links and numbers, where we posted all that information. We will also link you to the fund's website.
Well, today, Minnesotans will honor the troops in the 4th annual Appreciation Walk.
But Minnesotans aren't the only participants. About 150 soldiers in Baghdad will do a shadow run as well. The event, put on by Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund, begins at the Dome Pad located at 4th Street and Park Avenue. The 1.5-mile walk and 5K run start at 3rd Street in Minneapolis.
All runners and walkers will get a free ticket to today's Twins game against the D-backs. Registration began at 9:30 this morning. The race begins at 11.
Hundreds turned out to say thank you to Minnesota soldiers and their families today in Minneapolis. Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund held its 4th annual Troops Appreciation Walk this afternoon in Minneapolis. It honored families who have lost loved ones, have loved ones serving, and their families. Marcia Hergott's son was the first Minnesotan killed in the Iraq War. She says it's the little things that make a difference.
We'll go over and cook some food and take it to a military family that's serving, that their family's left behind. You know, some parents have to be both mom and dad to their kids because somebody is serving.
Well, since its start, the organization has helped 6,000 people.
During the 4th of July, fireworks, barbecues, and vacations often distract from the patriotism of the holiday. It is a chance not only to celebrate our independence, but a chance to also pay tribute to those who understand firsthand the high cost of freedom. Carol 11's Joe Fryer explains why the 4th is a bittersweet anniversary for one Minnesota mom.
It's the birth of America. That's why we have the 4th of July. That's what it's all about.
The day before Independence Day 2008, Marcia Hergott carries out a routine she's honored almost daily for the past 5 years.
At least 5 times a week, probably. Like yesterday, I think I was here 3 times.
But July 4th is different. It was on that day, 2003, the Hergotts were awakened with news their 20-year-old son Jim had been killed in Iraq by a sniper's bullet.
It seems like yesterday. Yeah, it's like yesterday.
Pages peel off the calendar and routines resume, but the dull ache of loss never seems to leave. Marcia is prepared to live with it for the rest of her days.
I've talked to a guy that lost his son 30 years ago. He says, I can tell you to the minute. It's like, okay, that's what I got to look forward to. Great.
This is Steve and Deb O'Neill. Deb was his kindergarten teacher.
Some consolation comes with a steady stream of visitors who leave keepsakes and messages in a mailbox with Jim's name on it. Reading the journal entries and spending quiet time here keeps him close.
You know, me and my granddaughter will come here sometimes and look at the clouds, and she'll say, oh, look at there's Jim's name, you know.
Tomorrow, when fireworks light that same sky, those who love Jim Hergott will quietly mark his life with feelings of pride, patriotism, and pain. They hope you take a moment to think of him too.
Just remember who paid the price for your freedom.
With producer Dana Theed, Joe Fryer, Carol 11 News.
Marcia Hergott channels positive energy into supporting the Minnesota Military Assistance Fund, which helps families of soldiers killed or wounded in combat. And she also talks to other military moms who have recently lost a son or daughter.
We'll change gears here now to today's top stories and some sad news to report. The founder of the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund has died.
Eugene Sitt passed away Tuesday after battling pancreatic cancer. Sitt was the chairman of one of the most respected investment firms in Minneapolis, but it was his nonprofit organization, which helps military families, that garnered Sitt an 11 Who Care Award. Here's Carol 11's Boyd Hooper.
Please welcome Eugene Sitt.
The success of a man can be measured in all sorts of ways. It's just hard to think of one that doesn't apply to Eugene Sitt.
Well, I hope all these men and women will be coming home soon.
3 years ago, Sitt founded the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund, put in the first $1 million out of his own pocket, then oversaw the granting of more than $4 million so far to more than 6,700 servicemen and women and their families.
You know, sometimes tears come out of my eyes because you cannot really, you know, you just cannot quantify the hardships, the sacrifices, the stresses that they and their families have gone through on our behalf.
Sitt knew hardship himself. Born in China, his mother was imprisoned while he was a boy. He arrived in the United States speaking no English, yet became a respected money manager for IDS before starting his own investment company, which today manages some $6 billion in assets.
He was a humble man,
He was a man of great intellectual skill.
Ralph Stranges, Sit's longtime friend and attorney, says he was proudest of his family, wife Gail, and 6 kids. But Stranges says Sit would want to be remembered for his support of the troops.
We're just so delighted that you all came home. Thank you.
He loved this country. He believed in service to the country. Gene was a true patriot.
To answer your question, Mr. Sit, you have made a difference.
Eugene Sit, a successful American by any measure.
Importance of giving back. That was Gene Sit.
The work of the Minnesotans Military Appreciation Fund will continue without its founder. We've set up a link at KARE11.com if you care to learn more or make a donation in Sit's name. Sit was also active on a number of nonprofit committees and boards. His friend Ralph Stranges said he always seemed to be giving of himself. A big loss to our community and state.
Well, it really is. We welcomed him here on the show, and what a privilege that was. Nice, humble, kind man. You know, he's also just about to receive the Minnesota Business Hall of Fame Award. He was to be inducted late in July. It's just kind of a sad thing all the way around. It's good, though, to see people giving like that.
What a legacy.
Yeah, yes. Proud one. Thank you.